Hey, BassGeek here, and if you're like me, you like to maximize your time on the water so you can catch as many bass as you possibly can. And a swim bait is a great tool to do that. But if you're not paying attention to the action of the bait fish and matching that with the swim bait you're using, you're wasting your time. So what I mean by matching the action of your bait fish is generally this time of year, the bait fish, well, they have a little tighter swimming action to them. They're warmer, they're more active. You know, that big, wide, wobble kicking, kind of fluttering tail is normally a cold water version or a cold water swim bait. Those swim baits are better when the temperatures are lower. So one of the things that I look for, it's almost the same sort of thing I look for when we talk about a clear water or clearer water crankbait. I'm looking for a streamlined, flat side body, a lot of times a flat side top, and I'm looking for a little bit smaller tail, or at least one that has a tighter kicking action that gives me just enough of that tight body roll. Now, what that allows me to do during the summertime is get out here and fish for these bass just like they are natural forage. It just looks more natural to them. And what I love to do is get out on the ledges and on the humps, the creek channel swings, wherever it is that you're fishing for these bass. Rock piles, over brush piles, no matter what it is. One of the things that you need to do is swim a swim bait over top of them. Don't always throw that belly weight, kind of count it down there, keep it above them. A lot of times throwing just that little bit bigger swim bait than what the shad or the gills or the bait fish in general are will get you a few more bites, and they'll get you bigger bites. But one of the things that happens this time of year is you get these schooling bass. So they'll get out here, they'll get out in open water, and they'll suspend up. Well, a couple of things that we do is we judge how active those schoolers are. So we will adjust our weight to where sometimes we'll throw a heavier weight up shallow so that we can fish those swim baits faster. But by fishing that swim bait faster up shallower, what that does is it gets those reaction bites. Vice versa, if like today those bass were not active at all, you might want to go with a slightly lighter weight. The bass were up high in the water column, say 10 to 15 feet, but then I might want to throw a 1/4 ounce or even an 1/8 ounce, just so I can slow roll that bait, keep it moving at that slow pace to where those bass have to look at it so long, they just cannot stand but to hit it. That is a big time summer pattern that will get you a ton of bites. So adjusting that weight matters. Now, let me show you the style of swim baits that I like to use this time of year. So like I said earlier, you're really wasting some time if you're throwing the wrong swim bait, and a lot of that has to do with the action of the swim bait. Not every swim bait is created to do the same thing. And during the summertime, just as we talked about a few minutes ago, when it comes to those bait fish, if you ever watch them dart away in the summertime, it's not a slow, wide tail kick. That's generally what they look like in the colder water when they're a little bit slower. Generally, those bait fish are going to have a nice tight body wiggle to them, and that's what you want to key in on. And when you're looking for a swim bait that has what I call the summer action, you're going to want to look for a few things. And the Blip Minnow by NetBait really has all of those. The very first thing that I like to look for in a bait is for it to be a little bigger bait. Now this is a 4-inch bait. I wouldn't call this a giant bait, but it's definitely the size of the shad in the lakes that I'm fishing right now. Those spawners that have just moved out. Now, This little bait doesn't have eyes, and as the summer goes, like I said before, the water begins to clear up as you get deeper into summer. So I love to pair this with a head, and this is the Dirty Jigs Tungsten Guppy head. So it matches perfectly, and this is a pretty heavy weight, like we were talking about the two different ways we like to fish this bait this time of year. And this is a 3/8 ounce. We'll talk about the reason why we've got that tied on in just a few minutes. But what gives this bait and this head the summer action is that thin body. Now it's still got a very soft tail, so you're going to get that nice tail kick when you're fishing this bait at slower speeds, but it's not going to be a huge just side to side tail kicks like some of the others. And the reason why is because you're going to have this nice small paddle tail on the back. So that's what I mean by summer action. A tight body for a tight roll and a smaller paddle tail for a tight wiggle. You've got a deadly summer swim bait that's not going to waste your time on the water. Putting a bunch of jig heads in your tackle box, it's always hard to kind of tell because they get mixed up. It never fails. What weight is what? Well, the great thing about the guppy head is it's actually printed on the bottom, so you don't have to worry if they get all mixed up. During the summertime when those bass are really finicky, to me, it's extremely important to be able to close the deal. Get those 2-3 extra bites instead of those bass coming up and swatting at the bait, maybe missing it. And that's to use some sort of scent. And the great thing about this bait is it's part of the NetBait Hex Tech series. So they came out with the gel, and this stays on 10 times longer than the liquid does. And we've been using this all year. This is called the Fused Gel. And as they like to say, it is, I believe it says on here, supercharged by bait fuel. But we like to put that on here because a lot of times what's going to end up happening is those bass are going to come up and they're going to hit it. And as long as you keep it going, they're going to come back because they'll get a little taste of that bait fuel and they'll come back and swallow this 4-inch bait. Now, color is always important to me, and color is something that will get you more bites and maximize that time on the water. Even if the water clarity doesn't change throughout the day, you could have clouds, you could have more chop on the water, it could go to dead slick calm. And a lot of times changing those colors with the changing conditions will again catch you more fish. This is sort of my go-to color from them. They make a ton of different colors, a lot of bright colors, some dark colors, but this is my go-to color when it comes to the Blip Minnow from NetBait. This is the albino shad. It's got a little bit of gray in it and just a touch of this blue on the back that really makes this look great in dead slick calm conditions and clear water. Lower light conditions, even on these clear lakes, I'm going with something that's a little more solid when it comes to color. Maybe a little more flash, but in low light conditions, the flash really isn't what I'm looking for unless it's an overcast, part of the day that's a little bit later in the day. But I'm looking more for that solid bait color presentation. And in low light, these are the two colors that I'll go to. And it depends on how early in the morning I get out on the lake or how much cloud cover I got. One is the lower light is going to be the Tennessee shad, and then the green shad is when I've just got, a little bit of cloud cover, maybe just a touch of chop. The bass can see this much better. Now, if we've got high sky, clear water, a little bit of chop, these are the two colors that I'm going to go back and forth between. Really, a lot of times these two colors, it just depends on what the bass are in the mood for. A little more chop, I'm going to go with this right here. This is the Pro Blue Red Pearl. This color I like when it's dead slick calm and I'm around something in clear water, grass, stick ups, lay downs, logs, but I'm going to have just maybe come and go clouds, partly cloudy, or some chop, because this thing will glow when it's dead slick, calm, high skies. This is albino pearl. Now, you got about 2 foot visibility. These are the 2 colors for you. Now, when it comes to rod, reel, and line, this is a TFO Elite. I don't think they make this anymore. Anyway, it really doesn't matter as long as you're using, you know, this kind of setup. It's the stats that really matter. So this is a 7'4". I like a 7'4" because I can make a longer cast out of it. This is a medium action because I'm throwing lighter baits, smaller baits on this rod. This is a 4-inch, and this is a fast action. So this is, I'm going to be able to cast this bait a long way, get what I need out of it. I've got that coupled with a 6'2" to 1. And one thing about swim baits, even though one of the things we're talking about today is really powering a swim bait to get a reaction bite, most of the time, if you're slow rolling them, you want something in that 6'2" to 6'5". This is an Akuma Hakai 6'2" to 1. So I like that speed because I can speed up or I can slow down. I have a real bad habit of reeling too quickly. So for me, it's always good to have a reel that's a little bit slower. For you, you may be the exact opposite. You may be somebody that reels slower. You may need to go with a reel that's 6'5", 6'8" to 1. Go with something a little bit faster to speed up your natural cadence. Now, I've got this coupled with Pro 100, K9 Pro 100, 100% fluorocarbon in 10-pound test. Now, if I'm going to fish this on the bottom or around some stuff, I might go up to 12, but that's generally what I'm going to throw on it. So now, when it comes to retrieves, you know, we kind of touched on it just a little bit earlier. The 2 retrieves that we're going to get, and I always preach this about swim baits, if you're fishing it slow, you probably should slow down because you're fishing it too fast. But if those bass are up shallow, sometimes you can get a reaction bite by putting a heavier weight on it and fishing it a little quicker in that stop and go manner. So those are the 2 retrieves that we're really going to focus on during the summer. And I'm going to use the weight that's going to keep it as slow as I can go to keep that tail moving, dependent on the depth they're in. But if they're up shallow and they're a little more active or they're grouped up and you can get a reaction coming across them, sometimes it's good. Put a little heavier weight. We're throwing a 3/8 ounce today. Throw it out there just past them and reel and stop. Reel and stop. Don't pause that bait too long. You don't want it stopping and dropping too far. It's just a stop, just a little drop, and then you're reeling again. Sometimes you can even twitch your line just like you would a jerk bait a couple of times to get started. So it'll be a reel, stop, jerk, reel, stop, jerk. That's the kind of thing you're doing because you're trying your best to get those bass to react and to fire up. Now these dirty jigs, they've got some great hooks on them. You're gonna side set, you're gonna keep that rod tip down, and you're going to bring those bass to the boat. Get them into the boat. You can put them on your thumb, get them on a net, boat hop them. I don't really care. This 10-pound test, so maybe boat hopping, you know, not as much. But that's pretty much it. Get them in the boat, take a few pictures, toss them out, let them grow, and come back and catch them when they're a little bit bigger. Now, if you haven't seen the video on the NetBait virus, trust me, this is a virus you're going to want to get, okay? There's a lot of them out there that I don't want, but this is the one that you're going to want to get. So do me a favor, go check that out right here. Otherwise, questions, comments in the comment section below. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell, be part of the 100% Watch Squad, and you geeks rock.